Okay, so welcome to puppy class. Since we have a fifth Thursday this month, this is just a really short bonus class. So we're shooting for more like a half-hour class, and we are going to focus on teaching dogs to take treats nicely. That's hard to say. Teaching dogs to take treats nicely. And then I have a couple really quick games that I can show you guys. Um, Unfortunately, I can't be in my living room today because my house is like a circus of people. So I'm going to show you a couple quick games you can do on your own time. But Stephanie's going to start us out with some cool training exercises. So take it away, Stephanie and Vinda.
Yay! Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this topic. This is something I've worked a lot with in professional training, and I think, with Chuck Dickinson, our training manager, and I think we've really found like some tips that really work well. Because kibble manners isn't just about not taking treats harshly and like with their teeth, because obviously that's painful, but it's also about having the dog learn kind of what the treat is for and learn how to have manners so that you can actually use the kibble as a lure. Because sometimes if you just have a kibble plastered in front of their face and they're just like chomping at it, going crazy while you're trying to lure them, they're not really paying attention to what they're actually doing. They're just like throwing their body places. So I think doing this exercise a lot in the beginning, it just teaches them that it's like, okay, when the kibble's in my hand, we're going to be calm, and it kind of teaches them, I'm blanking on the word, control, like that they're not just chomping at it. And then also, it's really painful when you have a dog that uses their teeth to grab the treats. So just for safety of everyone, we like dogs to take treats nicely. So I've kind of come up with some little training exercises that you can do, and obviously since it's food involved, the dogs love it. So feel free to do these exercises. I keep them really short because in training we always want to leave the dog wanting more, which is pretty easy to do with food involved, but still we want to keep it short so they're super engaged in the session. And so you can do this multiple times a day, but because it is a ton of kibble involved, make sure you're taking it out of their meals or else they can gain weight really fast. So basically we'll just start. The first step that I do, I like to use a bigger piece of kibble. So for example, Vinda's kibbles are this big. They're pretty small. So I start off, I'm not going to start off with that because that's not setting up for success. I'm going to start off with a Charlie Bear. How about taking a treat?
I don't
Like
know.
this.
That was probably in reference to something we said earlier, and I think knowing Janice, she was probably making a joke.
Okay. So I'm going to use a Charlie Bear just because it's a bigger size. So like Eukanuba kibble is, hey, excuse you. So this is why Vinda's our little demo dog here. She loves food and she loses her mind. So step number one, I'm going to start off by having the Charlie Bear, and I'm going to put it in my fist. I probably shouldn't start yet because I need to explain. So what I'm going to use is if she uses her teeth to get at it, I'm going to say no or don't or nope. So just in a nice calm, just to tell her that that's inappropriate. If she uses her tongue, if I feel her like licking at it, I'm just going to immediately open my hand flat so that she doesn't bite me, and say yes at the same time. So a lot of it is really timing. So if you mess up, it's bound to happen. Just try again. Okay, so I'm just going to put my fist out. Some dogs that are more delicate and not as, pushy for food, you might need to encourage them. Be like, yeah, really? Okay, you can go for it. This one has no problem with that, so I will put my fist out. So she's just smelling, pushing. There you go. Yes, good. So I felt a little bit of tongue licking my hand, so I just yes and opened my palm, and she's getting that reward. Good girl, in my hand.
No.
Yes, good girl. Nicely done. So yes, good girl, good. So I know it's kind of hard to see, but right now, so for her, she's doing a lot of like pushy behavior, so I'm just ignoring that. I could say no if I wanted to, some puppy that we're raising right now, she likes to use her teeth. So when I was on this stage with her, it was very obvious she was like biting my hand. So if that's the case, you just say no or don't or nope, anything like that. And then, oh, Moxie. So then the next step. Oh yeah, so what if she starts chomping on your knuckle? Yeah, so if she were to bite, sorry, Vinda, if she were to bite on my hand, I would just issue a verbal no, don't, nope, anything like that. I keep it really calm. So that's a great question because we don't want to we never want to escalate our corrections. So it's always cool, calm, collected. So it's just fluffy don't. But we don't want to make it so our dogs avoid the kibble. So that's like the fine line that we're really crossing with this is we don't want our dog to avoid kibble because we need our dogs to be able to confidently and comfortably work through, kibble or food or distractions on the ground. So it's just you just say no. And then, sometimes if a dog is, really doing it, I might have them on leash so I can bring my hand further away, anything like that. Yeah. I like no for this too. Okay, so then step 2, after you do the kibble in your fist, when they're ready to graduate on to the next step, what I recommend, oh, you got a crumb. What I recommend for safety, Vindaloo, thank you, is I put the kibble in between, in this little V, between my thumb and my pointer finger so I can still have my hand flat. I don't know how you can see it. You can see there's still a little bit of the treat out. So that's what I'm really going to feel with. So if she's taking it with her treat, with her teeth, I'm just going to try and hold on tight, say no. You might, for this one, you might have to close your hand into a fist if they're trying to take it because we don't actually want them to get the kibble if they're using their teeth. So sometimes I say no and close my fist, let them think about it, open it back up. And then same thing. So if they are licking it, I'm going to say yes and let them get the kibble. Okay? Yes. Good girl. Good job. So she tried her teeth a little bit at first. So I'm just going to get the treat planted. Okay. No. No. Yes. Good job. Good girl. So again, this is kind of, they're moving pretty fast, so it's hard. You're kind of like, no, yes, no, yes. So if you mess up, that's totally fine. A couple mess ups happens to everyone, so just try your best. No. No. Yeah, good job. And so hopefully what you want to start seeing is that they come in first licking. Okay. No. No. Yes, good girl. Good job, Minna. Good girl. Good. So then once they start doing that reliably where you're getting a lot of, they're just offering licking, you're going to go to the final step, which is your hold. So basically I would never recommend giving a dog a kibble like this. Oh, sorry, down. Good girl. You're pretty much asking them to bite your fingers. So this I'm just doing for this exercise. It's like the final exam to see if they really understand the concept. So I kind of just hold the kibble like this, put it out in front. So you can see, no, that was not licking. So it's a little more obvious here. No. Good. No. Yes, good job, good girl. So they might try and use their teeth first. You just wait them out with that no, and then if she uses her tongue. So right now for her, it's just not really like doing that big chomp is what I'm taking. Good. Good try. Good, no. Yes, good job, good girl, good. So I messed up a little there. I probably could have given it to her on the first one, but it happens. You just keep going. This is an exercise with a ton of kibble, so the dogs aren't going to get really agitated or frustrated if we mess up. So you just do your best. No. No. Yes, good girl. Very nice, Vinny. Good. So then that's kind of step 1, 2, and 3. You start with a big kibble. So say your dog is just nailing that, doing really good. Okay, then you can go back to step 2 and use that smaller kibble. So this is her regular kibble, not a treat. So I'm going to go back. I'm not going to start with this one right here because that's not going to set her up for success. I'm going to start back here and just present it. Okay. Yeah, good girl. Beautiful. Come on. Good. Yes, that was good. Good job. Yes, beautiful, Vinja. Good girl. And then I'm just going to go to this one, and she might struggle a little more. No. No. Yes, good job. Good girl. Good.
Yes.
No. Yes, good girl. Good. And that's
So Stephanie,
oh yeah.
I was just gonna say I can read out questions to you.
Okay.
Nancy had asked at what age do we use this, and I already told her. I said any age is fine. If
Oh
you
yeah.
have a shark.
Yeah,
Of a puppy.
any age.
Liz said she might have to bring out the garden gloves for this training. Your leather gloves.
Yes.
And then Connie said we don't need to wait for eye contact with this exercise? Question mark.
Correct. Yeah, so this one is specifically focusing. So if you were to ask for eye contact, I think that would be a little bit too much difficulty. The dog might get confused on what behavior is getting them the kibble. So for this one, there's no requirements on that. Literally, the only thing we're looking for is that they're doing that licking behavior rather than using their teeth. So there's a ton of other food exercises that you can do that work on eye contact. But we want to only work on one thing at a time, so it's really obvious to them what it is, like the behavior that they're supposed to do to get that kibble. Does that make sense? I hope.
It makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, and it's interesting. Like I've done variations of this exercise where the dog like has to back off from the treat in order to get it. But what I actually like about this, and I haven't quite seen it taught this way before, is you're actually teaching, like you're specifically working on coming in gently with their mouth anytime they come in for a treat. Whereas if you teach them to back away from the treat, you're teaching them some impulse control around food. But then when you deliver the treat or bring the treat closer to them, they might just come right back in with those shark teeth. So the dog's like, well, what thing are you teaching me? This breaks it down even further.
Yeah, exactly.
Mary,
and I think that's, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
And I think that's why we went this way. Like I tried so many different things, and it was always like the dogs just weren't getting it in every context. But it seems that this way of teaching it, because that was one of my notes to talk about, is like, because I think, so this next question, I'll probably answer this and go into it. Because she said, do you recommend that we go down to their level to teach this? I personally do. This is how I start, because the dog is calm, in a down. You're just sitting here. And I mean, it saves your back. You're just able to kind of work with them on their level. And so going into my next kind of tip about this is I work on this multiple times a day to get them really understanding that concept. So when you're just starting it, say, I do a session with her and I'm like, oh man, she's, licking it out of my hands very nicely. And then we leave and go for a walk. She's probably going to chomp on my hands because right now she's stationary. We've narrowed the exercise down so she's only focusing on one behavior. But when you're in a let's go, there's distractions, they're moving, everything. So just be prepared that it all might kind of go out the window, like when you're just beginning. But what we want to start seeing is that by doing this consistently multiple times a day and really rewarding them for that appropriate behavior to take the kibble, that you start gradually seeing it. Oh, when I tell them to do a heel, I give them the kibble and they're taking it nicely. Oh, when we're in a let's go, I can reach down and give them a kibble and they take it nicely. Good girl.
Do you have any advice on finding that balance? Like if you're working on taking the kibble nicely, and using your tongue instead of your teeth, and then you go into a practice session and you're getting some with the teeth, some where they're licking. How much should you work on that during the practice session instead of working on
I think, so my mentality of it is I try and set us up for success the best that I can. So when I'm in a training session, if I know my dog is really chompy and takes it with their teeth, I'm going to try and do that where I am getting the kibble out of my bay bag and holding it like this in my palm so that it doesn't give them that option. And that's just because, again, it's like muscle memory. We want them to take the treat with their tongue as much as possible. So any time that I can help get that behavior. So if I were to take her out on a walk and say she was a puppy and she needed kibble, I would be giving her the kibble in my flat hand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Okay. Yeah, because it definitely, they do backtrack a little just because they're so excited to, do moving commands or be moving. So yeah, you got to keep your eye out because you don't want to be like, oh, I worked on this and they take it fine now and then they're going to chomp your hand off. So it does take a while, but we have seen it multiple times where the dog, they actually understand it, and then you can get it to where they're doing moving commands and they're taking the treat nicely.
Awesome. That's so great. I was just going to add that something else people might want to think about is like their dog's hunger level at the time that they're working on it. So let's say, it's just before dinner time. Your dog's probably even more likely to be a shark. So like Stephanie advised, like take some food out of their meal to use for training, and that's great advice. So maybe you would feed them part of their meal to let them feel a little bit more satiated and calm. And then after that, you could do work on actually taking the kibble more gently. So just also think about that too. Like, when is your dog's highest hunger point during the day? Probably not the best time to work on it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Stephanie on taking treats, kinds of treats, anything along those lines?
Oh, Vinny's leaving us.
She was such a good helper.
I was like, Mom, I need to use her for that. So I got her all week. I love it.
She's like, I really enjoyed this training.
Yeah, she's been a chomper her whole life. And she's the kind where it's like, it's not every time, so she'll get you really good. Because you'll be like, oh.
People are admiring her collar.
Oh, thank you.
She has a bell bow.
I know Belle had to let her borrow a bow.
So I think you wrote this up, and then I can try and share it with everyone.
Yeah.
I guess I would ask you guys that are the puppy raisers that are present. I've tried sharing documents through our message board before. So I'll say like, oh, here's a handout, and if you click on this link, you should be able to go in and look at it and download it. Has that worked for anybody is my question. Or is it just sitting there, not helping anyone? It's worked for me. Oh, yay! Okay, cool. I've heard a nay here or there. Okay, it does work. Okay, great. So what I can do is make Stephanie's handout into a PDF and put it into like a shareable format with a link, and I can put that on the message board so that you guys at this class, as well as yeah, I've tried dropping it into the chat here on Skype too, and that's been kind of hit or miss. So I think I'll try putting it on the message board. So keep an eye out for that either tomorrow or Monday. And we'll share that with all of you so that you can start practicing at home and have the handout for support. But huge thank you to Stephanie. A question, is the pup a COC or a PIP?
She is a COC.
A change of career dog. In case,
she's afraid of kids. She has intermittent fear of kids, so... She gave it a good 7-month try in professional training. She gave it her all.
Kids are scary. I live with several of them.
She's like, they're so loud. They move so fast.
Yeah. They're terrifying. I'm terrified. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Stephanie. That was so cool. I loved watching it too.
Yay.
I will take the spotlight off of you here.
Okay.
And then I will turn my camera on, and I'm going to show just a couple quick games, and then we'll wrap up for the day. Hello! This must be my neighbor's practice time, because I can hear my neighbor playing the clarinet again. It's the soundtrack of our lives. Well, hey, a couple quick games, because I know we're still all kind of panic, like in our pandemic boredom kind of moment, right? So it's good to have some things to work on just to kind of spice it up. So I have a couple games to introduce. First, there's a question from Carol. So what to do if the dog is afraid of kids? That's a really good question. Yes, exactly. You guys get to come into my bedroom today because I have nowhere else to be. Yay, welcome. So I will say that one thing to think about when you get a brand new puppy is that they are in a really important development window when they first arrive. And so we want socialization to be careful and very well thought out. So getting experiences with kids during maybe the first, 4 to 8 weeks that you have them after arrival can be really helpful. But you want it to be the right kind of interaction. So make sure you're not just like, I gotta check this off the list. So, oh, there's a big group of kids over there. I don't know those children. Let's just go over and throw the puppy in the middle and see how it goes. You want to definitely set up some specific exposures where it's kids that you know that they'll be more easily controlled, and ideally starting out with some kids that are just a little bit older before going to toddlers. I find that most dogs are pretty chill around babies because babies just kind of lay there, right? They make some weird noises, but they're just sedentary. They're in one place. Toddlers are typically the scariest because I live with a 3-year-old. They are scary. They're loud. They make unpredictable noises. They're really loud. And they kind of, especially when they're learning how to walk, they walk funny. They have a different gait and way of walking, and they're down at their level, and they're often coming at the dog like this in a very grabby kind of way while making a lot of loud noise. So that can be really intimidating for some puppies. So what you want to do is think about what that introduction looks like. The best thing you can do when introducing a dog to kids is to just have 1 or 2 kids at a time, and kids that you can somewhat control. We can't really control kids, right? But just have them seated, have them as calm as possible. And instead of having them come to the puppy and come over the puppy, have them sit down on the ground at the puppy's level and just let the puppy go up and explore them and say, just stay there. The puppy's going to come over to you. And that way if the puppy wants to kind of sniff around the room a little bit first because they're like, I'm not sure, when they start feeling more comfortable with the presence of the kids, they choose to come over. That's a very different experience than kids coming at the puppy. So sometimes just even things like setting up their early experiences to be more positive can really help. If you don't have access to a lot of kids, then neighbors, connecting with some neighbors can be good. If you have another puppy raiser that could do maybe a little swap, or you could go visit them and they have grandkids or kids of various ages, especially that have experience with puppies, that can be good too. And if you're seeing a puppy that has a little bit of hesitation with kids, you can have the kids have a few toys, maybe even hold out their palm with a couple kibbles for the puppy. That's fine. We don't want other people feeding the puppy so that they see people as like human Pez dispensers of food. But that would be one of those scenarios where it very well could be positive. So if you have a dog that's had a negative interaction with a child where maybe they bolted away, they were crouched down, they didn't want to go over and greet, their ears were pinned, their tail was tucked, and they just looked really uncomfortable, some kind of those things, or maybe even they barked at them and backed away, then it would be good to just take note and then see if you can set up one of those kind of nice relaxed experiences with someone that has some older kids to start, just kind of easing them in. Playgrounds can be really overwhelming, so I recommend when you're starting to take the puppy out on walks and to parks and things like that, take a lot of distance from the playground. Like there might be kids there running around being loud, but if you take enough distance where you can look down at the puppy and see that their body language looks their tail is loose and wagging, their muscle tension, there's not a lot of tension in their muscles, they look pretty relaxed. They might be a little alert, and that's fine, but they don't have the tucked tail, the pinned ears, the wide eyes. They're not looking like they want to bolt in the other direction or bolting in the other direction. So, oh, someone's offering to ship their kids. That is so generous. Thank you. Yeah, let's work that out. You guys can work that out in the chat. Anybody that needs some more kid interaction, go for it. The other thing is, please contact your puppy program manager if the dog has had a negative interaction with kids where they barked, growled, backed, or bolted away, or even just looked very uncomfortable. So awesome. Yeah, good question for sure. And I think some of our dogs just kind of innately don't enjoy kids as much as others. So we do what we can with socialization, but I think some of it might even be a little genetic. That's a personal theory. I have nothing to base that on. I think Southwest will take the kids. At a certain age, they can fly alone, so I don't know. Oh, do you want me to ship? Oh, I'll ship you my 9-year-old. Today, I will ship him to you. So I'm going to introduce this next game. So this is a really fun game that I stole from Susan Porteous, who's the puppy program manager at Northwest, and it's called Green Eggs and Ham. This is another thing that I can give you as a handout. Let's see. I might be able to share my screen. I think I have it open here, just so that you can view what it looks like. Let's see. Green Eggs and Ham. Can someone unmute and say if they can see Green Eggs and Ham?
Now I can.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So the kids' book. Oh gosh, until you're a grown-up and then you read Green Eggs and Ham again, you don't realize actually how repetitive that book is. But my toddler loves it. And really, it's about eating the eggs on a, in a box with a fox or whatever. So we're kind of going with that theme of we're going to have a command and we're going to have a scenario. And we don't know how those things are going to combine. So you're going to have this list to choose from. You can even pick your own. So you can put different commands in here and you can come up with your own scenarios. But these are some suggestions to get you started. I printed this out, and then you can actually cut these into little strips. And you're just going to put them into little jars or bowls. And you're going to pick one scenario, one command, and then your task is to do those things together. So some scenarios might be, oh, you have to do the command next to another dog or pet. Do the command where you're sitting in a chair. Do a command where you're sitting on the floor, on a jump table if you have one and it's age appropriate for them to jump. Clap your hands while you're saying the command. In the grass or on different surfaces. Whispering the command. Some of our graduates actually, or clients rather, have trouble projecting. It's difficult for them. So can the dog respond when you say the command very quietly? While you're holding a toy in your hand, while you're holding maybe some treats in your hand, you're not luring them, you're just holding them. When your bait bag is off and they don't think you have food. While you're touching your toes, standing on one foot. Look, we'll all get some exercise too. When a person stands close to your dog as a people distraction, just standing there. While there's some food on the floor, on a dog bed, when there's the noise of a food bowl, not like dropping it from like a great height, but just kind of clanking around nearby, when there's a food bowl actually on the floor nearby, maybe holding items in your hands, that might be different to them. You're not usually holding things. Lying on the floor, that's a hard one. Pretending to talk on the phone, which, as we know, makes them go crazy, try to get our attention. And then I added a couple other ones. Handler close your eyes and command them. Turn your back and flap your arms while commanding. They're going to go, what is this movement? So can they do the command while these things are happening and in these different places and setups? So be sure to help the dog if they fail, because we have definitely made a big change. But the commands that you're going to be drawing at random, you're going to pick one scenario and one command. The commands that are listed here are sit, down, stand here, back, wait, and then on the next page it has out, heel, side, speak, and shake. So most of the puppies, if the puppy doesn't know all of the commands, just put the ones that they know. And like I said, if they're more advanced, you can always try adding in some other ones too. So you can, when I give you the handout, well, you can certainly do this on your own and just remember some of these things, write them down on little pieces of paper and put them in there. Hold on, the mic. So I just have a couple of these like giant cups, and so I cut them up into little strips, and then you can just randomly draw them. So I have, I drew out. So then maybe I drew out while, I drew out of the other cup my scenario. My scenario is while whispering. So I have to then take Gus and go do out while whispering. In this house, he's never going to hear me. So Green Eggs and Ham, that's your little game that you guys can play around with. And like I said, if you come up with some creative new ones of your own, absolutely go for it, and feel free to share them on the message board and let us know if you came up with some other fun scenarios to do with the dog. Any questions about that one? Hurry. Yeah, throw hurry in there. Why not? Hurry when your eyes are closed. Awesome. Okay. I figure it's pretty simple. The other little game for you guys to do is dress up with the puppies. So this is something that we don't talk about a lot unless it's Halloween. If it's Halloween, we're all like, oh, maybe we'll dress up the dog. And I think every puppy program manager has different philosophies on dressing up the dogs. If it's for a practical purpose, then I am a fan. And there are a lot of our dogs that you might notice if you go on social media or watch YouTube videos need to be dressed up as part of their job, as it's part of therapy. So maybe they're working with a kid in a skilled companion placement, and the kid is struggling with getting dressed and sensory issues, and they are dressing up the dog so that the kid will also do it as well. They might be a facility dog where they are working and doing, speech, working with a speech pathologist, and the speech pathologist has some different costumes for the dog that play into what they're trying to accomplish with their clients. So a lot of these dogs end up getting dressed up, and not just for Halloween. And as we know, they all get dressed up, all the time because they're putting on their vest. So your job is to look for some things that you could possibly dress them up in. I have a couple examples that should be easy for you guys to find. Well, not all of them easy for you to find, but bandanas. So you can take a bandana and you could just put it around their neck in the typical dog bandana way and just have them wearing that around the house for the day. Make sure you're watching and it doesn't go on in the crate. None of these things do we want to be on the dog when they're unsupervised and then they're like, I don't want to wear this anymore, I'm going to chew it off. You could also make this into more like roll it and make it more of like a belt and just kind of tie it around part of the dog a little bit so they've just got a different sensation than the cape. Liz says, Nairobi routinely has to wear a wig when working as a facility dog. Oh my gosh. We really need pictures of that on the message board. That's what we need. Another thing that is very practical is socks. A lot of the dogs will end up wearing booties either because they're going to a climate where it's cold or hot, or maybe even just vacationing in those places, and the client wants the dog to have some booties on for their protection. So I have kid socks. You guys probably don't have those, but any kind of like small tube like sock is fine. You don't have to necessarily go out and buy dog booties if you don't have an immediate practical use for them, but you can use some socks instead. You can put them on just the dog's front feet, just the dog's back feet. You can put on 4 and encourage the dog with some kibble and some luring to do just a little bit of walking around in them, or pull out a toy and play a little bit of fetch with their favorite toy. You want to be using food and using some fun toys and keeping this really light and happy. If you notice that the dog looks absolutely miserable and that their ears are back, they're crouched down, they're very tense, their tail is tucked, they're totally frozen, do your best to take a couple seconds, get them really, woohoo, cheerlead them through it, use some really good treats. And if they're still kind of frozen, then don't belabor this experience. We're not here to torture them. We're trying to make this fun. You can even put like a shirt on the dog. I mean, they wear vests, but it's different. So I was going to put this tank top on Gus. But just like if you have some kind of tank top or t-shirt or something like that, you can put that on the dog as well briefly, just so that they have a different item that they're wearing that might be more like a dog costume. And of course, some of you probably have a good selection of dog costumes to choose from past Halloweens that you can just use. So you can borrow, ask around if there's a lot of puppy raisers that maybe you want to borrow a dog costume to use. But the point is not to have you spend a whole lot of money on things, but just to use things that you have or that you could borrow from other people. I don't have I've used dog costumes in the past with my dogs, but gave them away to Goodwill. But of course, as many of you know, I have my beloved bunny costume because Christmas Story is one of my favorite movies. So I did actually put this on Gus earlier, and he was actually really good about it. So I put this on my dog. I velcroed it under his chin. I gave him a few treats, and his body was really relaxed and loose, and his tail was just still loosely wagging. I gave him a bunch of pets, and then I took it off. So this way, we're just kind of preparing them for whatever their future career might be. But they don't go around dressed in this stuff on a regular basis. We want to look very professional the rest of the time. Carol says you can get a lot of stuff at Goodwill. Yes, great idea. Because most people use this stuff just once. People like me just give it to Goodwill. Excellent. Any questions about that? Teal has doggy diapers mastered. Yes, many of our dogs will have diapers mastered. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. We're going to cut it a little bit shorter today and end now. But I will have this recorded in case you missed part of it or know someone that wanted to join but couldn't. And then I'll put those handouts on the message board, hopefully Friday or Monday, once I can get in there. Thank you. Thanks for coming to our bonus class. Happy to have a little bit of bonus time with you guys. Have a wonderful evening.